bulb moments. And because of that, he's a part of this full moon. So I want to talk about that. But before I get into this full moon, I just want to say that until we get to the new moon in Capricorn, which is on January 13th, we are still in the energy of the eclipse. And the importance of that with this full moon is massive, because we had that new moon eclipse that brought in new energy, but it was also doing some clearing out. And then even more, this full moon gives us the opportunity to release, let go of past identities, past belief systems that have held us back. And it also brings in this energy because Uranus is involved, and Chiron. So I'm going to talk about Uranus and Chiron in particular, these archetypes. But because it's still in this eclipse season, it really has this extra power to it. And I posted in my story, if you want to check out, it'll be up there for the next 24 hours, about the 8th degree of the cardinal signs. The 8th degree of the cardinal signs is also an initiator of new cycles, the ability to leave systems and traditions behind that aren't serving the future momentum. So all of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, initiated a new season. So this is now, we are in Capricorn season, initiating in winter time. And when it initiates in a new season, it initiates in a whole new cycle. And so therefore, when we have a full moon, which is clearing out, cleansing, bringing things into the conscious mind that we might have had hidden in our subconscious, when we have a full moon in that energy of new cycle, of starting fresh, it's a very powerful time, and we don't really want to waste the energy. It's guaranteed that new insight, new inspiration, your dream time, any space that you make for meditation or self-care is going to amplify the energy that's already here. Likewise, if you're in a destructive pattern, you can also be in that amplified state. And it's a very wise time to be aware of people that you know that are a little bit unstable, or have had a hard year, or have had a hard time, and to, of course, have compassion, but also create safety around your surroundings for yourself. Because this Cancer energy, it is the great mother, and it is the feminine. But it's also the feminine energy that is destructive, that can be destructive, and that it creates and destroys. And so when we have a full moon in that energy, we just want to be mindful of our emotions, but also recognizing that we can't control others, and that we sometimes need to give space to certain people or situations, or, even this could go into work clients or people that you know aren't necessarily aligned for the time being. So with that said, this full moon is tomorrow night. It's at 7:28 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it is at 8 degrees of Cancer, and the sun obviously is in Capricorn. And then we also have a square to Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. He's in all of our charts. And wherever he is in your chart, he's like your Achilles heel. But it's also, so it's a place of great pain and sorrow, but it's also the place where we can gain compassion for others because of that wound. Excuse me. So when we have a full moon squaring Chiron, a square is a challenge. Chiron is currently in Aries, and Chiron in Aries is a wound to our own identity, a wound to who we are. And when we see the full moon squaring it, which the full moon brings into consciousness, and it can also bring healing, Chiron, but it can also just bring up more of the wounding. And it's often when we're doing the deepest healing when we are feeling challenged the most by that wound. So, hi Maria, how are you? If you're just joining me, I'm talking about the full moon in Cancer. And it's oftentimes, so I was talking about Chiron and how he's squaring this full moon. it's oftentimes when we're in our greatest pain and our greatest feeling challenged to be with that pain, or to sit with that pain, that we're doing the greatest healing work. And to remind ourselves of that. If you're in a time period where you're trying to avoid sitting with that, or you're trying to avoid being with your pain body, the healing has a harder time taking place. So it's oftentimes when we can surrender to that, which is very Cancerian, around getting into your cozy little cocoon and being with yourself, being with your intuition, being with your feelings, being with your insights, your dreams, your visions, and also being with the pain of whatever keeps you from tapping into that even further. And when we can sit with that, and when we can give compassion to ourselves in that, and that's really our ego that keeps us from being able to do that, right? But when we can be with that part of ourselves that's even judging the self, then we're able to really get to new places and move forward in our lives. And it's often that contradiction of, if we can just, stay above it, or if we can just keep moving, or if we can just, not really look deeply at this wound, then we'll just be able to keep going. But that's an illusion that keeps us going at a level where we're not fully in our feelings. We're numbing ourselves to our feelings. And so it's not going to give us the same results as if we just allow that surrender to feeling and then move forward from after that. And it's so funny to me, because in my own experience with this, because in my mind, when I feel like I have to do that, in my mind it's like, I don't want to do that, I don't have the time for that. But when I actually do make the time, it can literally shift in 15 minutes. It can literally shift in 10 minutes. It's just giving that time, space, and that permission to surrender. So that Chiron placement info isn't in most natal charts, and that is true. If you go onto astro.com and you put in a certain way, if you reach out to me, I can show you how. It's just really easy on astro.com. You want to go onto, and they'll show you your Chiron placement. I mean, obviously, if you got a full birth chart reading from, I think most modern astrologers talk about Chiron. So Chiron's squaring this full moon, meaning give space and energy to the things that you've maybe been avoiding, sitting with, being with, and look at your own Chiron natal placement to gain understanding about where this wound might show up, because the transiting Chiron, where it is right now, is in Aries, our identity, but then you have your natal placement of Chiron. Okay, so that's all important to look at. Another interesting piece of this puzzle is that we have Uranus sextile the moon at this full moon. And Uranus in Taurus is a longer transit. I keep meaning to go back and find my Uranus and Taurus video and repost it so that you can see it, because so good. Like just the understanding of what Uranus and Taurus is shaking up for us right now collectively is so good to know. And then also looking at where Uranus is in your chart, where Taurus is in your chart, is going to help you understand where these aha moments, where these shifts, these changes are going to be taking place. A sextile to the moon means that our emotions are aligned with the actions and the changes that need to take place right now, with the sudden aha moments that need to take place right now. And when those two are aligned, it is a very potent time, because we're emotionally prepared and ready for the next level of ourselves, the whatever you want to call it. Some people call it like the ascension process. Some people call it the next level self, the awakened self, whatever you want to call it. Our emotional body is now finally ready for that. And so at this full moon, it's the great opportunity there if you can be with those last little bits, because we have the two things happening. Uranus, which is like all ready to break through, bust through, move forward. Why I have my lightning filter up right now or whatever this is. But then we also have that square to Chiron, which is still challenging us. So it's like that last little, I talked about this time period being graduation, and one of the things about that wounded healer is that we think we can get to a level with him where it's not going to hurt anymore, where we're not going to feel pained by our experience anymore, where we're going to like fully graduate into this, you know, the self that doesn't feel those same things. But that's not the human reality. The human reality of graduation is it's still painful, but you learn tools and ways to sit with it where it's not going to push you over the edge anymore, where it's not going to cause you to be triggered by every little thing anymore, where you're not going to get stuck in negative thought processes or cycles, or like I posted in my story, like, you know, numbing yourself out, drinking, having a massive amounts of anxiety. Like, you get to a point where you have so many tools that you've built up through being with this pain, through sitting with it, that even though it's still there, you have so many tools to navigate and be with it in a different way. And this is often what I talk about with the Chiron birth placement, wherever it is in your chart, whatever house it's in. It's always going to be there. It's always going to be a thing. But the triggering around it shifts, and the understanding of self brings you to this compassion for self and ability to navigate when those hits are happening, the universe hitting on your Chiron, the universe, you know, having you walk through certain lessons where it can be less triggered. It can be more integrated, so that you can still have the compassion for others, still have the compassion for self, and keep walking. Lastly, I'm not going to talk about it a ton because it's something that I've been talking about, but Neptune squaring the nodes of the moon is a big deal, and it's happening through most of January, the first half at least of January. And Neptune is, you know, our spiritual connection, but it also can be where we go a bit delusional on the shadow side of that, not grounded in reality. And so when we have a square to the nodes, it's challenging us to be with our future self, to be with our past self, and to know the difference, and to know where we want to align with ourselves in order to move forward and not get pulled into the past. A great meditation I have for that is up on my through the link in my profile. I have a free meditation on that if you're wanting one about the aligning with your present self through this process. And then Venus is conjunct the south node of the moon, which, you know, Venus is desire. It's how we attract things to us. It's our love and our magnetism. And when we have Venus conjunct the south node, our past, we're going to be, you know, needing to have a lot of understanding and love for where we've been collectively and where we've been individually. And really that whole saying about, you know, it's like a religious saying, so I'm not going to get it right because I'm not super tuned in that way, but it's like, forgive them for what they do not know. Like, there's this piece of our humanity that we have access to just loving on right now around like where we've all gone astray as a humanity, as a human family, and really being able to have compassion for, because when we know better, we do better, right? And so it's that whole idea that, hi, if you're just joining me, how are you guys doing? Loke, how are you? I'm talking about the full moon that's tomorrow, but I'm wrapping up. So if you haven't, you can go back and watch this later, but if you haven't been here. But yeah, you know, that forgiveness for exactly, Amanda. I wanted to remember to talk about Uranus, so I infused him into this. Yeah, and in the big news, you know, this is the full moon, so I want to stay focused on it. But Uranus, like I said, has a huge role right now and moving into January. Also, Uranus is going to be squaring Jupiter, just massive, January 18th through the 24th. I've got time to talk about that, but I definitely wanted to say that with this full moon, since it is sextile Uranus, just stay open to what's shifting for you. Stay open to the changes that you need to make. When you feel fear or resistance to making those shifts or those changes, really like, you know, you can even place a hand on your heart and just like look at the wounds, look at what's coming up of the main underlying emotion that's causing you to not want to move forward. Chiron, you know, that wound that's not aligning you with your future self, with your goals, and really just be with yourself, be with your wounds, so that you can move forward, you can make the shifts and the changes necessary. Cancer is a water sign. It's the sign of the home. It's, you know, most of us are spending a lot of time at home. And so it's a good time to really bring some love, bring some water. You know, you might want to just like deep clean, or I was just telling a friend to like bless her space, you know, like with infusing. You can infuse crystals into your water overnight with some essential oils. And then just like, you know, I'm all about I grew up Catholic, so we had like the water things, you know, that I feel like were taken from at some point. That was like in the hands of women, right? But anyway, you can bless your space, get into your watery emo healing, good vibes, and take good care of yourselves. I have a year ahead masterclass coming up on January 13th. I'm going to do it at the new moon in Capricorn. If you want to fully infuse into getting the most out of this year, your registration comes with a digital planner. So the cost of the class comes with a digital planner. If you've already purchased the planner with me, I actually have a discount code. So just reach out to me if you want to do that masterclass and you already have a planner. I'll give you a code to get a discount off class. If you haven't gotten a planner, this is a great way to get the digital planner and to be in that class with us. And we're going to be talking about the numerology, the astrology, the ways in which you can set up systems for your year to be successful. I look back at my planetary planner from last year and the 4 values that I had and the goals that I had set for myself. Check, 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 check. Even though this was the craziest year and there were so many other things that came up that were unexpected, I really want to share with you ways that you can hone in and get the most out of your year, even with all the craziness and unexpected that might come up collectively. You still have control. You still have some power that you can hone and really use to get the most out of your year in 2021. So reach out if you have any questions. Have a beautiful full moon. Take good care of yourselves and your hearts and your minds and your spirits. And I'll talk to you soon.